Great. Okay then. So, well, I think we're making extremely good progress. I've had a good look at the companion, and I think that that is beginning to shape up very nicely now. Um, the survey that we're doing that will support the consensus of the group, we hope, that we can that will inform both the companion and the article. That's coming on very nicely. I met with Rebia on Wednesday, and we've got a few things to do to make sure that it's a good survey and gives us what we want, and we'll be asking the right questions, giving us information and data that we can analyze and make sense of and use um, to generate that consensus. So we should be finished, I would think, before we meet the next time, before me and Rabia meet the next time. So in a couple of weeks' time, we should have the survey ready, and we can crash test it as a group. We can do it. Obviously, we need to do it ourselves as well, and then we can circulate that. And I think that's probably pretty good timing because it will help us to to perhaps finish off the companion in the article, but make some good solid progress on that. So that's all very good. And I was going to suggest that today we we kind of see where we are and who's going to do what, and maybe to have a focus on the second section in the companion, which is to do with the mentoring each other phase, and how that's what's going to go into that, and how we can all contribute. Um, but this just to bring us up to speed on the first section, then, and if at any point there's anything in what I'm saying that that you don't agree with, then please do say so. So the companion, it's got basically an introduction now, and Sylvia L and Sylvia R have made some comments about the introduction, and I'm going to feed those in. It's got an executive summary as well, so something that will kind of provide a summary of some of the main points that or main understandings we've come to as a group, and that's where the survey will come in to confirm some of those. And then in section one, we've got a section on definitions, a section on skills, competences that mentors need. We've got a section on models and a section on key insight, a section on challenges, and also a section on AI as well. What thinking about AI lends to our discussion and understanding of what mentoring is. And I'm going to, if this is okay, to continue in the same way with the first few sections on definition, skills, and models. Write more, get more comments and input, feed those in, and gradually, fill out that. So that part of the companion will have a really, I think, substantial and robust. This is what we think mentoring is. This is the kinds of skills that mentors need. These are the models and approaches that you can use. And these are some of the sources that you can look at for further reading to develop your understanding further. And for the key insight part of that section one, I think we did agree this, but I may have misremembered. But I think Sylvia R was going to have a look at that and take responsibility for that. I've got some suggestions for it that we could.
Can you remind me that section? Which was it?
It's the one about key insights. So the way I see it is that it's a section that will help the reader consider the kinds of conclusions and consensus that we've come to about what mentoring is, what skills you need, etc., and that we guide them towards other uh, articles, research papers, help them to digest and access those sources so that they can do further reading themselves. So,
I don't remember where that was because I had found it and I wrote my name and then my name is no longer there, so I don't know where it fits those insights.
okay, so at the moment, it's the fourth part of section one in the companion. And if you you added a lot to it. You talked about Richard, what's his face? Um, Richard Rossner, was it? Can't remember now. Clutterbuck. We've got Malderez and
Okay.
Wang, and yeah,
Oh, it should
and
be 1.4. Is that what you mean? 1.4? Because there isn't a
yeah,
1. There
There
is a
isn't a 1.4.
there isn't. That's why it's
There
1.1.
is a 2.4. No, 2.1.
There is 1.1 purpose, 1.2 mentoring and professional learning, and 1.3 definitions.
No, it's 2.1, competence frameworks. I think John is referring to that. 2.1, maybe?
um, yeah. I don't know about the numbering doesn't sound particularly consistent, does it? But anyway, it goes with the structure at the moment is it goes basically what is mentoring. Then it looks at what kind of skills you need. Then it looks at what kind of approaches you can use, and then it gets onto the key insight. So it's whatever the number it says. It's point number four in that structure. And also, and I think it was Janet and Desi who did a kind of a literature search. So they came up with articles and things that were related to mentoring within education, especially within English language education as well. So we've got a lot of sources and stuff. There's your Argentinian one as well, isn't there? About talk, interaction on a mentoring curriculum, something like that,
Yeah,
which is very good. It's very interesting.
Uruguay, and yes. So, what would you call that section? That section 4? What was the name you would give it?
Key, key insight.
Okay.
So,
And
uh,
what questions do you think it could answer?
well, we've kind of used it already to some extent in the first three bits.
Yeah, that's why.
So it's basically a list of resources. For me anyway. That's how it's. It's basically a list of resources, these articles and videos and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because in the first 3 sections, it is our voices. How to Mentor Group says 1, 2, 3. In number 4, it's other voices. Is that?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, or at least a focus on other voices, because we've obviously listened to other voices in order to decide what mentoring is, in order to decide what skills you need. So I see this more as a kind of more help, So there's a really excellent empirical review of, I don't know, 100 or so articles and reports about mentoring, which is nobody wants to read all of that stuff. So, so it's like maybe it's, chat GPT prompts, for example, that might make it more accessible, but something multimodal and, accessible and interesting, and some kind of help that readers can get in order to access what other voices there are easily, quickly, something like that. I think.
I did something of a sort for the article.
Yeah,
So
I didn't stick it. I didn't paste it on the right section, but I've got it here. That what we did. The one about the models, you mean?
no, the first part I did for the article was the different voices. So probably I will look for a different format so that it isn't same as the article.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, it's ways of looking at things, isn't it? I mean, the companion is a kind of a bigger version of the article to some extent. You know, we're basically answering some fundamental questions, aren't we? And it's just a different format, exactly. Yeah, it's more academic and less guided for the article. But yeah, and essentially that there are lots of people who've written lots of things about mentoring. You know, how do you help the reader kind of digest all of that stuff easily,
Yeah.
I suppose.
It's in the section is after summary of discussion in actions. I think that's what you're talking about, John. I'm sorry, you just interrupted. Let's go into the
Not
document.
Which Rabea, what?
Summary of discussion. After summary of discussion, actions. That's where I can see key insights and mentoring, and the way the John is mentioning a list of articles and videos and resources, everything put together.
Yeah.
It's there.
You're right.
It's there. So it's after 2.1 we have exploring mentoring, then summary of discussion, then actions. In actions, the key insights are there.
Yeah.
Is this the one you're talking about, John?
Thank you, Rabea. Yes, key insights. Yes. Now I get it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Apologies for interrupting. Just spoke out
No,
loud.
not interrupting. And then after the key insights, then we've got something on challenges. You know, so what are the barriers to effective mentoring? And we've got a really nice list, haven't we, that Janet and others generated.
In fact, Janet presented at the webinar the challenges. So I think we should recover all that material, shouldn't we?
Yeah. And that list, and also the 3 or 4 webinar slides, I think is basically it, really. But Janet's not with us today. But I was going to make. Sorry.
She said she was not able to join us. But this is being recorded, and I will write this to her. So maybe the section on challenges she can contribute.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's just having a look at what she's already produced, really. But I did have an additional suggestion as well, that we might think, if it's not too complicated, we might think about another part to it, which is about overcoming challenges. I think that would be quite useful, wouldn't it? That it's good.
Mentioned something. I think at some point she said challenge. Okay, well, we can check. Yes, overcome. How to.
I think so, because I think I think we talked about it in preparation for the webinar, and I think we were saying, again, I'm not sure, but I think we were saying, well, wouldn't it be good to have something on overcoming rather than just listing challenges, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be good. And then the final part of section 1 in the current structure is something to do with how AI mentoring sheds light on our understanding of what mentoring is.
For that, I was wondering, do we have the recording of the meeting we held with Elena and Matthew? Because maybe we could go over it and pick some interesting points, but I don't remember where that recording is.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Yeah. We'll talk to Shirin about that. Yeah, and maybe have the recording or at least some sort of edit. If we're going down this multimodal approach to the guide, it would be good to have, excerpts from that. That's another
I
one.
think excerpts and a synthesis and a reflection, say our reflection. Could we decide who's going to do that so that we make sure that everything has a name next to it? Because we have Sylvia, I'll do the key insights, challenges, Janet, and for this one, we need.
Yeah, I can feel Sylvia L's hand,
Sylvia,
hesitate.
me? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're our resident AI expert, aren't you, Sylvia?
Me. The other Sylvia is the expert, the AI expert. I've got a lot of misgivings about, AI, and so I don't want um, to sound so too skeptical about that, and influence people negatively about AI in mentoring. But I was thinking that if we keep the same structure within each section, in which we decided to include these questions to get the reader to start thinking about their own context, then both sections we've been discussing right now, the section on challenges is ideal for them to get to think of which challenges they would add to the list and are more evident in their context and so on. Okay, I will. What I will do is I will start by watching the video. If Shirin gets finds the video.
I think Sharon shared it with us. I don't know where we saved the link. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's probably in one of the emails. You have to find the How to Mentor emails. So everything has been shared in links in the emails. So you just have to do a search and see if you can find it there. I don't think there's a common source that she's sharing things in. Let me just check.
Yeah. And as I remember it, the idea was to resort to AI, or what we were saying mostly is that to resort to AI and I remember Anne saying this, when it can save us time with the tasks that a mentor can
Administer.
yeah, the more, yeah, and but not necessarily with the others. Okay, but okay, I'll try and
I mean, in fact, what they are actually doing with noticing is providing an agent, right? An AI agent, designing an agent that will guide the mentees in their process of, well, in the training process. But I understand that at the end, then the teachers, the mentors, read the interaction and provide further feedback. So that is what I understood. Probably if it's just to get them to think at the beginning of their own practices, it might help. But I feel that there are certain things the machine cannot get, no matter how good the agent is. And it's all about this rapport, this empathy that we
the relational part, right? Yeah.
And this is where because in fact, and I think I asked her, Elena, one thing about this, it's a question of resources. If you have a lot of students and you cannot mentor them all, well, this is a way out. Well, So are we using AI just because we don't have human resources, because we don't have the money? So that is what makes me feel a bit uncomfortable about proposing AI as a mentor. But well, we can talk about the experience of noticing, bring up the advantages, and also the aspects of mentoring that AI still, because we don't know, still cannot cater for.
Yeah, I think that, sorry.
I was thinking that the evidence collecting part for reflection and for noticing, then in that sense, AI can help. I mean, it can organize the evidence, it can present it in a certain way, but the I think that the noticing has to be done by the mentee or by the mentoring in training, not by the AI. I mean, AI noticing is fantastic, but it will be quite a passive role for a mentor to be taken. At least I don't know, in my view. I mean, I'm not sure I want to give that impression in the
Yeah,
companion.
so yeah, I mean, there's an enormous scope here, isn't there? I think to be critical in the sense of critiquing it, and you've mentioned lots of them. And I suppose the only caution in all of this is to try and present what other people think about AI and its usefulness, its role, its place, etc. within, so that it's not just a, a negative or less positive. So I think that's the caution, isn't it? But yeah, I mean those guided questions that are common to all of the sections and stuff. That's a great opportunity, isn't it, to ask questions like, well, AI has zero experience. Does that make a difference? If you had a human mentor who knew nothing at all about English language teaching, who came along and said, "Yeah, I'll mentor you," you'd go, really? Because you might think, well, subject knowledge is going to be important, or years of experience is going to be important. Similarly, questions.
I think that the danger is
about
more like the AI knows a lot about language. They've got a whole library at their disposal, but maybe the concern is maybe the AI doesn't know exactly how I feel about a certain thing. Yeah,
that's right. And everything you said about it throws up lots of questions, doesn't it? Because on the other side that we've talked about before is that the AI assistant comes with a certain amount of baggage. It works in a particular way. It's been trained in a particular way, as we do as humans. That we might feel strongly about something. One of the skills or attributes or personal qualities that I was looking at in relation to the survey was something about managing your own emotions. So, that's not a problem for AI, is it? But it could be a problem for a human mentor. So there's lots of scope there, isn't there, for these guided questions. What do you think about this? I think without without having a whole debate about AI in general, but having a discussion about AI in relation to its function as well as a mentor.
On the other hand, we cannot ignore it. We cannot leave it out because it's around us. It's here. It's part of. It's already AI is already here, so it's inevitable. We have to at least include it in some sort of way in the companion. We can't just pretend.
And I would also include a long list of questions that I ask myself about, can AI be an effective mentor? If mentors have to do this, that, and the other, can a machine that can only detect patterns identify the real needs of the mentee? Of course, a very inexperienced mentor will not identify that either. But I mean, if I am going to delegate these to machines, I need to know what is the scope. I mean, how far they can do that. I wouldn't take an inexperienced, I wouldn't hire an inexperienced mentor, for instance. So why delegate this to a machine? So well, more food for thought.
Food for thought. That's it, isn't it? That's absolutely it, you know. And I think what Sylvia L said about, you know, the objection from a reader might be, I'm not reading this because I'm not interested in human mentoring. I'm only interested in being mentored by,
Yeah.
a machine. I want that. I want to know more about that. Then they would say, well, where's the section in this companion about it? So I think, we do need to, however we feel disposed towards it, I think we need to talk about it.
It needs to be there.
I think so.
My question is, can you be mentored by a machine? You can be helped, assisted in the synthesizing, whatever. You have a long list of things that machines can do for you. My question is, in our understanding of mentoring, mind you, what we understand mentoring is. So that is my big question.
Yeah.
Well, but
And
many people around may feel that they can be mentored
yeah,
by a machine in the same way, very much in the same way people find information to get cured
yeah, exactly.
on
Yeah,
AI.
yeah,
And
and
I would never do that. I would just go to a
Or,
doctor.
or they
yeah,
use it as a psychologist.
Absolutely, absolutely,
You
yeah.
know, I'd actually extend the question Sylvia asked, like, can I be mentored? And then, yes, maybe yes. How effective will that be? How productive is that is?
I
That's the key
actually,
question there. Yes, Anka.
exactly. And I think if you're relying on the machine, how does that actually stop your own thinking process? Because they give you ideas, but you don't actually have the original thing. Or, I mean, it's like, and so you have to have those original reflection questions coming from whether it's coming from AI, but AI takes it from humans anyways, right? It's been taught. So I think one of the greatest concerns is not that it's out there giving ideas, but it's out there giving ideas for people even to their own ideas.
yeah.
I think, I mean, this is not mentoring. I watched a webinar. I can't remember the name of the person who did the webinar. It's on AI. And what she said, well, what you do is you get AI to give you all these ideas and you just develop them. But that's backwards. The kids, the students, the teacher students should get the ideas and then you go to AI to see what you have missed. So it's backwards. And I think maybe with this, I mean, to comment on what Elena and her her partner in the AI development said, I'd have to go back and see the video again. I just have to find it from Sharon's emails. But I think it should be the other way around, that we as the think should develop the ideas first, and then we go and quote these in whichever chat GPT, whatever AI program we want. And I think the other thing, what I understood from what Elena was saying is that she actually, with her partner, her co-worker, her co-teacher, professor, actually had to teach the program to ask the right questions. And doesn't that come back that what you get from it is what has been put into it? So you go to something like ChatGPT, which is,
No,
you know,
they develop an agent. I know. I mean, the work
and
that
I think the agent, I just have the wrong terminology, but it's the idea is that they had to develop the agent before they could actually use it with their students. And I think that that's a key point. Because if you go to ChatGPT, you'll get some really weird stuff. But if you're not thinking and you haven't posed those questions yourself, so I actually think, with this, and if I remember correctly, and I'd have to go back and review it because I haven't got my notes here, I probably didn't even take notes. That the students actually have some reflection before they go to the agent, and I think that that's the important part. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that we have to start.
It helps them think. It should help them think.
Exactly, but the thinking has to come first, and then you go to the agent or whichever program. But I think the other point that's really important with the work that Elaine has been doing together with her colleague is that they have actually developed an agent that has within it those types of questions. And I think that that's a really important point. It's not just, Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever. It's not one of the free ones that you get on your computer. To me, it's been taught how to do it.
Yeah, sure. It has been taught, yes.
I know, and I think that that's a really important point. It has been taught.
There's so much in there as well. I mean, the other dimension is sort of this generational fear as well, isn't there? In that, that we kind of feel, because we come from a sort of a pre-AI generation, that we have developed already that sense of criticality, and that we kind of therefore are used to developing our own ideas first and then talking about them with other people and being skeptical about, what other people have got to say, kind of thing. And we sort of feel that as a bit of a strength of the generation.
But isn't this the so-called 21st century skills?
Well, it's certainly the navigating the digital world. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
It's an interesting conversation, but I just think that it's something that should come up in what our discussions are. I mean, not, AI is there, but it depends how you use it.
Yeah.
But isn't this idea of critical thinking, isn't that one of the 21st century skills?
Absolutely, and there's a big fear. This is what I'm saying. There's a big fear that kids don't have that because they haven't. They don't need to have it. They can be successful without it. Kind of.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, I think, in this, and this is why I think that when we do this, that ideas should come first, using whether the questions are AI generated or not, should come first, and then you go to the trained, the taught AI agent to then further develop your ideas. And I think that that's a really important work with the work that Elena has done together with her colleague, is that it has been taught to do it. It's not just ChatGPT or Gemini or what everyone to about.
Exactly. Okay, then. So that's kind of then in summary that we've kind of, I think we've got section one sort of like covered, and we know what we're doing, who's doing what, that kind of thing. So for section two, then, which is about the mentoring each other phase, and if when we talked about this before, this is really about what that mentoring experience of mentoring and being mentored, how that's added to our understanding of what mentoring is, what skills you need, what models work, what challenges there are, how you might overcome them. So I think our task is to write up then, call it case study or whatever, about how that experience shaped what we now, or has contributed to what we now believe, having thought about mentoring, what we now believe it to be, what skills you need, that kind of thing. So, and I think that's kind of the area that we need to do the most work on, I think. We do have.
You think we should have a descriptive part, say describing the mentoring experience, or shall we just answer this question? How has our experience shaped what I now believe. I mean, shall we go straight to the answer?
Um, well, that's an open question. My feeling is that we should use examples, real examples, to go straight to the answer to the question. So the example that I always like to give is that having been mentored by Janet and having mentored Rabia, my definition of what mentoring is in relation to this fundamental thing about the, it's kind of the transmission of knowledge from one experienced person to a less experienced person. That's a popular definition of it. That has now changed. I don't feel as strongly so committed to the idea of the flow from more experienced to less experienced. And I feel like that mentoring is more about co-constructing from different experiences, answers to questions, courses of action, that kind of thing. So that's that, and I would go in to the notes that we've got and said, this revelation, if you like, or change in the way that I see it is because of something that happened during that period. That's what I would do. That's the thing. And similarly, the question is, okay, so now that I've mentored somebody, what do I believe about the skills that you need as a mentor? Well, one really obvious thing for me was this thing about not making sure that I bring in other people's perspectives. Because I think one of the dangers with mentoring is that it's just one to one, you know. And if I say to Rabia, what you really need to do is this, that's just my opinion, isn't it? So it's a really, I think it's really, I didn't really think about that so much before, but now, but in the doing, and I found that I was being prescriptive at times, and in a kind of an unfounded way. I thought, what is that? I can hear myself talking. I'm thinking, is that good advice? I don't know, maybe not.
In our case, we had two mentees. We co-mentored two mentees with Sylvia, and in one case, it's not probably something that in my view, that I actually found, but rather confirmed, which is good because I got evidence to confirm this. One is what you were saying, John, the fact that peer mentoring is not only possible, but desirable, I would say, in many cases. And the other thing is that the importance, I think, that needs to be given to the setting up of the mentoring relationship, because in one case, for us, it was pretty straightforward. With Jerusa, we were able to design an action plan more quickly because her needs were more easily accessible, let's say, by her and by us as well. Whereas with Graham, this did not happen. So we probably took 2 meetings to actually focus on something that we could carry mentoring on. And I think that's crucial, that maybe one meeting is not enough to explore needs. And this idea of the spoken needs or the perceived needs versus the real needs, the actual needs, and the mentor needs to devote the necessary amount of time to that, because that's the cornerstone, I would say.
Time and different strategies, because we have to keep on changing the strategies to find a way to get round and find what is it exactly that Graham needs.
Yeah. So that I think this is what you have in mind, isn't it, John?
Yeah, absolutely. This is like gold dust, isn't it? So everybody in the literature says, okay, so the relationship between the mentor and the mentee is very important, and therefore you should take care in developing that relationship. You need skills to do that kind of thing. But that's just what people say. So what you're now saying, Sylvia, and I think this is the strength of the section 2, is that this is the example of what happened. This is how it, do a bit of context and stuff. So I found myself, I confirmed something that's obvious. And I think that makes the companion a kind of more of a complete thing. That it's not just about what we think, it's not just about what other people think. It's actually, look, you can see in this example why setting up the relationship is very important, because in one case this happened, and in the other case this happened. It's a very simple example, but I think overall that's where I think we're trying to get to with section 2, that it's reinforcing, it's confirming through example, what the literature says, what we ourselves think. So it'll be very good. I think Rabia was about to say something, and
Sylvia almost said what I wanted to say, because I had a similar experience with Janet. When I got in touch with her, I had, I sort of had a view like John, from more experienced to less experienced, and I know, but I'd guide her, I'd tell her, that's all I had to do. But when we sat down and we started talking, I realized that she needed something different than I'd perceived. And then I had to go back and then, do some research, come up with different strategies, and also help her identify her need as well, because she wasn't clear with that either. It wasn't just me, she needed more support in that area as well. So we ended up, and then she just didn't need regular mentoring sessions, but what she needed was just an effective, maybe a rubric or a guide that could help her mark the assessments and then guide her students the same way using AI. And we at the end, we both just created one rubric and shared that with each other. So it was not a long-term process, but it was more like co-working and co-constructing something, the way John said it. So yeah.
And we talked everything that we've just said now, for example, in relation to one of the other things that we would like to do eventually, which is to maybe develop a mentoring program of training for mentors, something that we've talked about. So on that course, then, just based on a little bit of this very latest conversation, what we would say is that absolutely essential on this course is something to do with needs analysis and responding to needs analysis. Absolutely essential from our experience that that loading time, investing time into the safe, open environment, the relationship side of things. From our reading as well, this is what that Wang in particular concludes about the centrality of the relational side of mentoring. So this is borne out from our experience, and therefore it feeds into, if we want to develop a cadre of, or if you, the Ministry of Education, want to develop a cadre of mentors, your training program must include something about needs analysis, something about relationships, that kind of thing. That's we're gathering the evidence, aren't we? That will help, I think.
Strategies to find out. I mean, strategies because as we said, we couldn't find out the real needs this way. So in the end, we even role played. We brought a case study. But cannot a machine do this? This is what I keep on asking myself. I mean, on the spur of the moment, noticing that just he couldn't find what he actually wanted. We there and then we just said, okay, imagine that. So these are the things that ring. I mean, I keep on thinking about.
What was amusing for me was like, years ago, or maybe a decade ago, or maybe, I started like teaching 15 years ago, and I could see the shift from traditional teaching to communicative teaching. And I felt the same it was the same sensation, a shift from what traditional mentoring is and how it should be, how it actually is. Something you read in the books, any literature that I pick up on mentoring would say that more experienced to less experienced, but in reality it was different. It was really, really different. And as Sylvia said, just not one thing, but it was more communicative in nature. So you just don't go in with, let me help you out. It's like you go in and let's explore together and see how this works out.
Oh yes.
What will be the end
Now
product?
I'm now thinking about the organization of the section, or because what we can do first is each of us can summarize their takeaway, let's say, the confirmations, their realizations on mentoring, supported by evidence from their peer mentoring experience. But it would look rather, it's okay to have different voices, but I was thinking that maybe some things might be repetitive. So we'll see, we'll just do the pouring first and then, okay.
I think that's absolutely right. What will emerge as important for you, let's capture that, and then we'll see what we've got, all the different important things we've got.
We've got some material already that we started building, but we didn't know how to present it. So
Yeah.
just as it is, with this question in mind, and we just share.
Yeah.
And I think it's in keeping with the spirit, because we do not believe in prescriptive mentoring, so we do not want this to be rather prescriptive, like do this. So it's more like, this is what we confirmed, or this is what we how the experience contributed to shaping our view of mentoring.
Yeah. And I think though, so just on what Anne comes in, I think ultimately it should be like a narrative, ultimately, because I think that would be interesting to read. I think people want to read about other people's real experiences. It's a bit like a story, isn't it? So I think whatever the important takeaways and stuff that emerge. I think it's because we've said about this companion that it's organised as that to reflect our own journey as a group. Chronologically, we did this, we did that, okay. But we've also said, you don't have to, as a reader, you don't have to do that at all. You can just dip in, and I think, hearing, what you just said, Rabea and Sylvia's, about your mentoring experiences in some nice paced narrative, I think it's really interesting. It seems to me that people like that kind of thing. I'm interested in being a mentor. I'm interested in developing my skills as a mentor. Well, what, how do other people do it? What was that experience? I think that would be quite interesting. So there's a couple of things in there, isn't there? As well as the important stuff, it's about whatever emerges, we've got to present it. It seems to me in an attractive kind of narrative way.
And we've been talking about our experiences as mentors. What about mentees' voices? Those of you who acted as mentees, do you think there can still be a voice there?
I have.
Can I just jump in here? I've been discussing this with Ismail because he did the ACT assessment together with me. And we're thinking of doing it like a column. We thought of structuring it. First meetings, we only had 3 meetings, and after that, he seemed to be good to go. But and you have my story in one column, Ismail's story in another column, and do it like a square. Would that work? Because that way, I think that you have my voice, his voice. I mean, Janet was together with us, but it's supposed to be about Ismail, and just do 2 columns. Would that work? And just do it like first meeting. You only had 3 meetings, and then he seemed to be good to go. And I was actually quite busy at that point in time too. He was good to go. He didn't want another meeting, and I'm utterly close. Would that actually work?
Yeah, I think so. We're talking about reflecting and narrating and describing and picking out important stuff from a two-way reciprocal relationship, and that there's clearly different points of view in there with the two individuals. So I think having a side by side narration that's from your perspective, Anne, and from Ismail's perspective, I think that would be very, very interesting. Yeah, and that you can see that. So maybe the synthesis then of that is what emerged collectively as important for both of you. Maybe that's
And that was
the
some
way to
sort
do
of
it.
like a sort of a closing point where how we actually joined. So we weren't actually following a theory. We were just talking. I did this to help him, and then he was good to go. Okay. So we will work on this.
Okay. And I've got one other suggestion about this section as well. I can't really imagine. Well, to some extent I can, but one of the other things that occurred to me about the usefulness of this guide would be about, okay, so right, you tell me what you think. I've read about your experience. Now give me something I can use, will you? So there might be an opportunity in this section too to have something. I've got one example, but I want about mentoring activities, mentoring tasks, things that you can take and use that are in some way, I don't know, generic, but at the same time flexible to work in different relationships, different contexts. And the only example, well, the example that comes to mind is about this thing about needs analysis.
Well, yes, that's one, and action plans.
Plan.
Yeah. So it might be that we could include some generic things like those two and say, this is what we used, adapt it, take it if you want. So I think so we go a little bit further than just thinking and storytelling. We actually say, yeah, and here you go. If you want to analyze somebody's needs, then you could do worse than use this, for example.
Yes, we have our needs analysis assessment tools. The fact is that they were designed for that
For teacher
and
education.
and for, I mean, they cannot be used. I mean, you can read them, you can interpret them, but then mentors should design their own needs analysis.
Well, but we
But
could just
maybe we could go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Ravi.
I was just about to suggest maybe we could have a collection of questions or suggested points to think about when designing their own. I mean, this is what we used, and these are some suggested questions you could ask your mentees, and you can add on more based on these areas. I mean, a similar thing that I did with one of another person I'm working with, not in this COP, but in my own capacity, I'm helping them improve their teaching skills, and I've given them milestones. So it's more of a mentor and a mentee relationship. It's not, and thank you because this helped me a lot. This COP helped me a lot when I was doing that. So I picked things up from here and applied it there, and I'm helping them become a better teacher in the classroom and then slowly transition into a teacher educator. So we worked on milestones because otherwise they'd end up thinking a lot, reading a lot, and doing nothing. And then, I thought of it, they were ready to make action plans as well, but never put them into practice. So we thought about milestones. You complete a milestone, then we move on to the next one.
That's
So
a
maybe a
great,
generic,
that's a
maybe
great,
a generic framework, and then ask them to,
yeah.
tweak it as they want to.
Yes, in the case of the action plan, well, what it should have, that's for all action plans, right?
Exactly.
The objectives, the learning outcomes, the success criteria, the activities for each I mean, for each stage. I mean, that is quite, I mean, quite generic. But in the case of the needs analysis,
Needs an analysis.
I might even think of designing a prompt so that with the details that they get from their first meeting, about what the perceived needs and all that. Well, maybe they can prompt AI and they get a proto needs analysis tool, which they can then
True.
start working on. Yeah.
Yeah. So having that as an example, I think would be a really, really useful thing for people to have because, the way that you described it, Sylvia, you said, yeah, there's a needs analysis, an action plan is very generic. It's got this, it's got, not everybody knows that, of course. So seeing it as an example, whether it's relevant to your context, relevant to the mentee and mentor in question or not, it's still, I think, quite a useful thing with the proviso that you said, earlier about, everything is personal, everything is contextualized, everything depends, blah, 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 blah. It's still nonetheless, it's like when you're trying to find out how to do something and you see an example of it and you think, okay, all right, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something a bit similar to that. So, I think that would be quite good. And I think if we think about it, there's probably, thinking about the skills mentors need, there's probably quite a few generic things that are part of that mentoring process and mentoring relationship that we have examples of that emerge from our experience.
And another thing is something else that we could say is the reflection moment. Sylvia and I, in our previous experiences, got mentors and mentees to keep a reflective journal. And with Jerusa and Graham being very, very busy people, that we found that didn't work very well. Sylvia as a mentee would probably keep a journal or keep reflecting all the time. So what we did was add a column on the action plan and even have the reflection moment in the meetings, because we knew that mentoring was the moment we met for the mentee and not any other time they could devote. So that is also, adjusting on the go. And but if you have a clear idea of the need to, that the reflection is fundamental in mentoring, then you will have to find a way of incorporating that in your mentoring experience somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So the same with needs analysis. So it's this balance between saying, okay, mentoring has to have this. We could give you some hints as to how we tackled it, but then you think about your own context and adapt this as you think fit.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think if maybe there's while you were talking about reflection, it occurred to me, and maybe there's another generic thing in there, isn't it? Everybody says that fundamental to mentoring is about the ability to scaffold reflection.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's a bit like Einstein's theory of relativity, isn't it? That everybody's heard of it. Nobody knows what it is. Well, give me an example, will you, of scaffolding reflection? People keep talking about it, and I'm nodding my head like emperors in new clothes. Well, what does it actually look like? What do you do when you scaffold reflection? So there's probably some things in there, aren't there? It's like giving constructive feedback. Maybe there's a list of principles or something like that, something generic that we can kind of think about and think, okay, then, well, here you go with some caution, but this is one way of scaffolding reflection. This is one way of analysing. This is one way of developing an action plan, so that you know what it is.
Yeah, and then there are different activities. There's always some time devoted to reading or watching videos about the topic in question, and there's always time to put that in practice. There are stages in the action plan which go from the input to the action, and then the reflection on that action, and that action could imply, well, let's design a lesson plan together, or the lesson plan and the observation. I mean, there are many suggestions for mentoring, very many. Well, Sylvia, you had the video clubs, and what was the other?
Lesson study.
Lesson-
Lesson study.
There are many activities and strategies that we use.
But those are variations of peer observation, I would say. But it's peer observation that is important.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So I think then we kind of decided how we're going to approach, at least initially, section 2. And I think if we possibly give ourselves a couple of weeks to do that narrative, that list of takeaways, the reflection on our experience, that kind of thing, see what emerges.
John,
Yeah.
Sylvia and I, not together, but separately, she will go with her family and I will go along. We're traveling to Europe when is it? A week?
May, late May.
No, mid-May. So, Sylvia, we can do a lot this week, this coming week, and then stop until we come back.
And then we can read you on the
Okay.
phone at certain times. Okay, now, are we going to talk about the article as well, John, or not so much?
Well, I've just got one other thing on the list for the companion, but yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing, and when when we were saying, where's the recording of Elena's and Matthew's webinar? It did make me think about the annex. Because one of the other things we want the companion to do is say, well, if you want to set up a community of practice, you could do worse than do what we did, kind of thing. So I'm very happy to kind of do a little bit more on the annex side, because how we set it up, all the steps that we went through, that kind of thing. And I think one useful thing in all of this would be to have some kind of repository. So for our own, it's a way of, this sort of having an output in mind is a way of kind of organizing your the example that my wife and I often talk about. You say it's great having visitors because we always tidy the house up and before they come. It's great doing a companion because it will enable us to have a focus on getting our stuff together. So, we've got quite a bit of things. Like, for example, we had a table that we kind of filled in order to decide who was going to mentor who on what and that kind of thing. So we've got recordings and stuff. So I think if we gradually kind of make sure that we collect all of those together in one place, and we can have a look at that and think, oh, actually, if you're setting up a community of practice, this is quite useful. So I think it would be a good way of getting our stuff in one place.
Yeah, but we need more people to do all that.
That's right. Yes. It may be that. Exactly. And I don't know who would be interested in doing that, but
I can pitch in, but you'll have to guide me a bit more because I've been on and off with the meetings, but now I'm quite free now in May. I don't have much to do, so I can help you with anything. Just let me know what I have to do, and I'll be there.
Okay. And in a way, thank you very much for that. In a way, that makes sense actually, because one of the experiences of not being right there at the beginning is you're thinking, what are they talking about? Where is that? That kind of thing. So maybe there's actually good place, good person to do that. Excellent.
I was thinking about that. The fact that I don't think if you could get a screenshot of every meeting we had, I don't think it would be always the same people. And yet the communities kept going. And there's a lot of going on. And also we even did the webinar together. So I think this is very interesting because people might think that everybody should have the same amount of time available to commit to to the initiative, and it's not necessarily so. I mean, has to do with assumptions that people might have about communities of practice.
I get it. And I mean, what you just said, Sylvia, having that like 1 minute in the annex as a video of you saying exactly that, people with an interest in setting up a community practice will listen to that and go, yeah, that's an important point, actually.
Well, we can take it from the video, from this recording.
Yeah, that's right. I'm setting up a community of practice. How important is it that everybody always comes to the meetings of the live sessions?
But you need to think of ways in which people can still be in touch, even if they don't join the meeting. So,
Exactly.
we need to cater for that. We need to make sure that everybody has access to what has been discussed in a way.
That's right. And
also there's time differences. There's a lot of things that.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, then. So on the just before the article, then the other thing is I've asked. Did I say? I can't remember if I said this before. We talked about having somebody to kind of review what we eventually produce, to be like a kind of a second pair of eyes. So I asked Tony Capstick, who we met once, if you remember, he came to one of the. He's very happy to do that. So when the time is ready, he's at the University of Reading, so he'll know all about articles and writing books and stuff. So he's probably a good person for that. Okay, the article then. My sense of this is that we're kind of everything that we talk about in relation to the companion is actually very germane to the article, because that's how I'm seeing it. But you may not see it quite the same way. Is there anything you think that we should be kind of doing more writing on that at the same time as doing writing for the companion? You want to kind of move ahead with that a bit more quickly?
I have not pasted it, but we tried with Sylvia something about the models section. We started with we wanted to design a table. So we started working with the table and then going back and forth with AI and in different at different moments and with different ideas. And we ended up trying to have a short section with some about 3 or 4 paragraphs. What is it? No, a bit more. But it's practically one page summarizing the models that we discussed. I still have to paste that, but it's done. I mean, it's for you to have a look at and so on.
Yeah, I think
this is how we started. We got the models and we fed the models and said we want a table, and then we looked at the table and said, this is not very clear for the reader, and so
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. When I was doing some work for the survey, and then later on for the companion, that's exactly what I thought should be done for the something that kind of this sort of the theory of everything kind of. There's something that's in some way synthesizes and brings together and something that emerges that all frameworks have X in them, all models have X in them, that kind of thing, or that some models focus on this in particular, but something that's kind of really kind of fundamental. One of the things that Wang has is these 3 dimensions, the cognitive, the emotional, and the social. So that focus is on those 3 dimensions. Maldarez, her model, that's focused on roles, for example. The US Army thing that I keep talking about, that's focused on stages. So there's a lot in there, isn't there, that that could be neatly summarized and brought together so that when you read the article, when you read the companion, you think, okay, then, so whatever informs what I do, I need to make sure that I'm focusing on the relationship, or whatever. I take bits from, so I'm rambling. Okay, and then anything else on the article then that we just keep going on, or is something in particular that we need to?
That. There. Okay, I'm just. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there it is.
Yeah.
In the article, I had included some information about my work, well, the work we did with Jerusa and the work I did with as a mentee, Nelson. But I don't know. I mean, I just threw things. I don't know how we are going to present those things.
Yeah, I just don't think we know yet, but we will do, won't we? When we've done our kind of case studies. I've got 5 things then to have a look at between now and the next time we meet. Me and Rabbi will finish the survey. Then we'll send it to everybody, and if we can crash test it, and we'll do that before we meet the next time. I'll write Janet and ask her if she'd be interested in expanding a little bit more on the challenges section. Bring out stuff that she perhaps did in the webinar to look at solutions to overcoming barriers, that kind of thing. Sylvia, you're going to have a look about the AI section, aren't you? And how that will work, how that's going to be useful, and everything. And Sylvia, you're okay to do the key insights.
Yeah.
Big task, though, I think, is about writing this, for us all to write up our experience of mentoring each other, I think. And along the way, if there are any generic mentoring activities, like generic needs analysis, if there's anything we think, yeah, that would be a useful way of showing how to do a needs analysis. And then me and Rabea will work on the annex, which is about how our own community of practice works or worked. And we'll start making sure that we've got some kind of repository for all of our recordings, and documents and stuff. Хорошо?
Okay, we'll do it in the next week, and then we'll say goodbye.
That's right. Where are you?
Our next meeting would be 15th? On the 15th.
15th?
But I mean,
but Sylvia will not be there.
You'll not be here. Okay. So do you want to meet
someone
before?
Will have to do it.
Someone will have to invite the Zoom and all that.
I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
When are you going on your grand tour?
Leaving on the 12th, and it's around Scandinavia. I'll be visiting the different countries all around there.
Right.
I'm coming back on June the 7th.
Okay. So would you, fantastic, first of all. Would you like to meet then before you go?
Well, this week we are going to work with Sylvia on all these tasks that we have, so that before I leave, at least things have been done. And then, well, when I come back,
But I mean, do you want to meet next Friday, or is it, or should we just take longer? I don't know.
I think people will take much more time to do all this.
Well, we will need more time.
Okay then. So when do you want to meet next time in June then? When you get back?
But you can meet on May the 15th and move on, and then I will watch the recording. Don't worry. I mean, I will be back, say, the 12th of June. I can join you June the 12th. Sylvia, you will be away, won't you?
I'm leaving on the 18th of May and I'm coming back on the 17th of June.
Yeah. So June the 12th, I'll be here.
But I mean, but you can go ahead. I mean, we're going to
course.
leave everything we've done before we leave, and then
Yeah.
I can join you on the 12th, on the 15th. I will be here on the 15th
I
of
think we should all go
May.
to Copenhagen and meet there in person.
That would be great.
I will be there on the 13th. We
Well,
can
there you go then.
we can have dinner in Copenhagen on May the 15th.
Excellent. Robert and Anne, can you make it to Copenhagen, do you think?
But yes, I'll just get my private jet. Don't worry, and I'll pick you up.
Okay then. So I think our next meeting will, okay, so on the 15th, but then after that, so on the 19th of June, then
Okay. So from
So
is
we're
that
May the
gonna
15th to the 19th.
May 15th then, okay.
and then the next time you're back at home, you'll be back for the 19th of June?
Is Sylvia just arrived and I'll be
Yeah.
here.
Sylvia can be here. I mean, and then I can get. You can have the meeting if you want on the 12th of June. Sylvia will be here, and then I'll catch up. No problem. I'll be here a few days later, and I'll catch up with her. So no problem. If you don't want to, push this so far back or ahead, let's say.
Perfect. Okay then. Great.
So May the 15th, and Rabea will open the Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
And June, which, the 12th or the 19th?
Yeah.
I don't know.
12.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can open the Zoom myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy spring and Labor Day.
And your
Very
lilies
nice.
of the valley, John.
Thank you.
Go hunt out lilies of the valley.
I'm gonna go and eat one now. Yeah. All right. Okay. Take care. Enjoy Friday, the weekend.